Good evening. My name is John Fontillas, as Jim said, with the firm H3 Hardy, based in New York City. Actually, when Jim asked us to join the team to help Nyack, he asked, how many performing arts centers or arts groups have you done in both large and small places? Because he knows us from doing Radio City, the renovation of Radio City, or the new Amsterdam Theater on 42nd Street. And I said, well, we're doing right now facilities both in Red Bank, New Jersey, and in Tannersville, New York. And I wanted to basically underscore that. I said, 50,000 rear end sitting seats that we designed every night around the country. So then he got it, that we actually do have experience and have done small and large, and hope to bring that experience to this discussion as well. The task that we were given was to try and figure out of the range of different types of cultural venues that could happen on the site. What really could be tested to fit physically on the site? Not just in terms of the actual shape and mass of the building, but all the different other types of programming and allied spaces, in other words, parking and or support spaces. So what we've done is created a series of diagrams that show 4 different types of venues. One being the large 1,000-seat regional roadhouse, which was in a way the focus of what the original plan was, to see a large facility that could bring touring events here to Nyack. But we also wanted to see what other types of spaces could also work. So we settled on a 350-seat playhouse theater, which I'll show you an example of that we've done, as well as a 300-seat black box theater. That would be a flexible space that you could do not only theater, but cinema or catering events as well. And then lastly, maybe something a bit more modest than arts or media incubator, something that might be more geared towards education, that might be not in terms of a large event, but maybe smaller events that might have multiple audiences all in one space. So this diagram is basically showing the footprint. In other words, if you were to take a 1,000-seat theater, a regional roadhouse is a type of theater that is designed to bring in touring shows, whether or not it's Broadway or a touring Broadway company, or large performer events. Basically, the capacity is designed in order to achieve the maximum number of paid admissions for a particular event. Now, as you can see, it's pretty large. This red line represents the Superblock site. If you were to put in the actual theater house and its stage, and all the support spaces, lobby, restrooms, dressing rooms, etc., it pretty much takes up 1/3 of the entire Superblock site. As you can see, it's about 35,000 square feet in terms of its footprint. We'll also see a little later, one of the biggest issues with a regional roadhouse is that you need a very large stage if you bring in a touring company. We call that the fly tower. It's something that is typically necessary when you bring in different types of scenery. You need to fly that up into a higher realm, a higher area, so that other activities or acts can occur on stage. The regional roadhouse, again, geared primarily to large events, about 1,000 people in attendance for whatever event that occurs as this program. Just to note, in addition, you would need a significant amount of parking to support a 1,000-seat roadhouse. The rule of thumb is that you need 1 parking space for every 3 seats. So this would represent 334 spaces of parking. And as you can see, it pretty much obliterates everything else on the site in terms of if you were to lay that all out on the site. So again, we have done a performing arts center like this. This is a project in Columbus, Georgia, which is also a river town. The River Center here has a 1,000-seat theater. It brings in touring shows. It has large performer events big bands play there. The two things I'd like to point out is that it did cost $70 million, and it was put together both with the town of Columbus, Georgia, as well as the Columbus State University, which was a educational institution in the town. They both got together to provide programming on basically a 200-night event during the year, 200 nights during the year. And it really just covers its costs because of that. It is a well-used venue, but it does require a significant amount of public input, both on the civic side as well as on the university side. So, in contrast, we tried to look at some other venues and wanted really to test out what might be a good fit for Nyack. We looked at a 350-seat playhouse. Now, a playhouse is a theater that doesn't have such a high stage house. It's relatively low because you're looking more at dramatic productions that may not require touring productions to bring in their own scenery. In this case, the playhouse itself is about 20,000 square feet in footprint with its lobby, support spaces, loading dock, etc. And it requires a much smaller footprint in terms of parking to support it. Again, using the 3 seats for every parking space, approximately 120 spaces here. So in this case, as you can see, it's both the parking and the footprint of the space occupy almost about half the site. And it's in terms of a playhouse, in terms of drama, you can still have performers there. Obviously not 1,000, but drawing 1,000 people at a time. But 350 is a good size. You can have smaller events or medium-sized events in that. And because it's a playhouse, it's fully outfitted to do alternate types of productions. If I could just go through these 4 schemes first.
Could you just remind us of the seating capacity of Helen Hayes as it is now?
Oh, okay. Helen Hayes currently, to my understanding, just to confirm, has 550 seats. 582, thank you. In a cinema arrangement, i.e. it doesn't have much of a backstage, and it has some dressing rooms, not a lot, but it certainly is doing quite well in terms of the types of productions that occur there. So in terms of the Playhouse Theater, in terms of its footprint, you can see its size. We just completed the Two River Theater in Red Bank. This was originally a lumber yard that, believe it or not, a professor of literature decided to open his own dramatic arts complex. This professor, in some way, made it had a great deal of money from investing in Berkshire Hathaway, believe it or not, and decided to fund and build his own theater in the town of Red Bank. It has been a significant change in Red Bank. Red Bank already has a significant cultural arts, some significant cultural arts venues. It has a Count Basie Theater and some other theaters. But when the Two River Theater came in, it was sort of a tipping point. A lot of the downtown businesses started to come in. There was a lot of different development happening in the downtown area. And now Red Bank in Monmouth County is a destination for people who are looking for a vibrant evening out in that area. So looking at a 350-seat playhouse, that obviously has requirements. It is, the Two River Theater actually has fixed seats. It really is geared primarily to drama, or it had Bruce Springsteen play there in a small concert. But it is all structured to really be a proscenium type theater. The needs in Nyack might be somewhat different. You might need to have a more flexible space. So we started looking at what would you do with a 300-seat black box. Now, black box is a term that really says that it's the most flexible space we could provide. You can change the seating carts. It could be just like we're arranged now in terms of rows going back on a flat floor, or you could have bleacher seating if you want. You could move all the seating out completely and have an art event or some sort of catered event, if you'd like, and with big round tables. It seemed to be something that might be flexible enough to do all the different types of events that occur here at Nyack. So looking at that in terms of its size, it's about the same size as the Playhouse, 20,000 square feet. We have about 100 spaces here, slightly less, just because of the back of house spaces, a little less than the resident theater of the Playhouse. So again, it does occupy a portion of the site, but again, much less than the regional roadhouse. Right. I mean, this is a diagram that shows the Superblock site. We only just placed the footprint of the cultural venue and its attendant parking just in terms of scale, just so you get a sense of how big things are relative to the actual site. We are currently doing a black box theater for the Brooklyn Academy of Music. It's called the Fisher Center. It's kind of hard to see here, but a flat floor they intended to use for dance, for video, for cinema, for film, lots of different types of events. What they don't have right now is a black box. They really only have right now the Harvey Theater and the Opera House, which are much larger venues, 1,500 seat, 2,000 seat, with fixed seats. This will give them a great deal of flexibility moving ahead in capturing new art forms. So then we thought, well, what if you really wanted just to do a modest change, and arts and media incubator seemed to be most logical. And then this in concept is really if you were to partner with maybe an educational institution, or if there are programs out there that really don't need a large space, but maybe smaller spaces that could be ganged together, have a common operating entity that provides support for it. That would be this case. This would be the smallest footprint of all, but we still think 12,000 square feet would provide plenty of room to do multiple functions during the day. And we are currently doing one right now for believe it or not, classical music recording incubator called the Orchestra from St. Luke's. And they basically are taking, in essence, a condo space of a larger theater project. And this area here is one large room where orchestras can record different pieces directly into a sound booth. And they also have other music venues for practice, as well as for small ensemble and chamber music rehearsal. We also did the Dance Theater Harlem, which we think is similar to this. In other words, dance studios that you could use for multiple different types of events. And then just to finish it off, a visual arts center. It doesn't necessarily have to be performing arts. You could have an arts incubator that might be focused on crafts or local visual arts here in the Nyack area. We understand that there's a great deal of that here, that might want to find a venue for that as well.